hard it is on the elder. There are people in this congregation who are involved with Focal Point. I'm talking about emotional. Go down to Focal Point and support it. And there are other individuals who realize what's going on down there. And so the elders in any congregation know that if they discipline one family member, you're going to have trouble possibly with another. Am I right, Brother Jimmy? That's the way it works. Man, I would hate to be an elder. Well, not really. Preachers have to go ahead and say it too. I am telling you this morning that brethren are just doing things unbelievable. Jay Lockhart has been on OCU 2012. He's been sharing pulpits since 2006 with people who go to OCU. And calling him and talk to him, I challenge you. Challenge one of you ladies. Call Jay up and say, I looked for you on the brochure for next year. Are you going to be on there? And you know what he'll say? I just didn't have time to be on there. Not this year. I looked for you on the brochure. Are you going to be there this year? No, I just didn't have time to be on OCU this year. How do I know that? We did it. Taped him. He's a liberal. He's a false teacher. And they're hugging up to him right now, and they hugged up to him down at Southwest. He was at Southwest. What is wrong with our brethren? You see the posture we're talking about here, y'all? I don't like MSNBC. Don't care for them at all. But they got a good slogan. Lean forward. Folk, we've been sitting on our leaves too long. We need to lean forward, and we need to stand up against some of these false teachers. Now, I'll tell you this today. If this costs me my job, I say it. Jay Lockhart is a false teacher. In 2012, he was down there at OCU. Royce Money was on the program with him. Raise your hand if you don't know who Royce Money is. Royce Money is not in Forbes magazine. Royce Money was or is the president of Abilene Christian University. Can Jay Lockhart be on the program with acapella that year and Royce Money, and then have your children or anybody in your family sit at his feet at Focal Point? Let me see your hand if you say yes. Let me ask that again. Can he be with Royce Money, who is a rank false teacher at Abilene, and acapella, Brad Harrop? You had that one right too. Steve Baisden did on that one. Brad Harrop running around with acapella too. Can't get in touch with him. You say, well, Brad Harrop, you talking about Brad Harrop? Listen, Brad Harrop has been to Martinsville twice on TV, debated one of the biggest atheists in our area. And I took up for him that year because I knew that he was going to be on with acapella, didn't have anything to do with it, and I thought sure that he would extricate himself from that. He didn't. He didn't. You might say, well, Johnny, they're bigger than you. Listen, brethren. There's a guy that wants to put my television program right now. He's a lawyer. Has 5 law firms in Bangkok. He wants to put our television program into the Philippines. He wants me to move to the Philippines. He wants to set up a server and help us to upload our stuff up onto YouTube live streaming so that we don't have to fool with anybody, anything. All paid, lock, stock, and barrel. But he wants me to go to the Pan American lectures with him. I ain't gonna do it. You know why? That same bunch from Abilene and from OCU is going to be there. Just can't do it. Can't take his money. See, that's what it comes down to. That's why they expelled Micah and Caleb. Money. One of the biggest congregations said these boys are causing too much trouble with the Baptists. So what? Take up for them. This morning we've got to realize, am I still okay with y'all? Wayne Jones' daddy has been one of my best friends. When the folks in Atlanta, Georgia left me in the Pacific, I went around raising my funds. I didn't even have to go where Wayne Jones is. He said, if Johnny Robertson's in it, I'm for it. And they just kept my money going in the Pacific. One of my best friends. But if Wayne is going to bring Jay Lockhart, he is an enemy of the truth, and he needs to be rebuked. And anybody who's going to Focal Point to hear Jay Lockhart, I'm just going to say this. somebody has been doing something privily that you may not have known about, and I'm exposing them. And I hope and pray that I've done the elders a favor, because I know how difficult it is. Sometimes it's very difficult in order to clear up these things. Now, folks, I'm not backing off of Southwest either. The guy that's preaching at Southwest, I've known him for 20 years. Congregation where he is, as soon as the elder that supported me died, they dropped me. I held a meeting over there. A Pentecostal woman, they shook her in on her Pentecostal baptism. After the meeting after our meeting on Sunday, she obeyed the gospel. Hugged my neck. Husband, I thought he was going to kiss me. Member of the Church of Christ. They shook his wife in on her Pentecostal baptism. What's his name? Sam Wilcutt. I hope you tell him I called his name. If he has J. Lockhart on Southwest lectures, Southwest folk are sick. Amen. Pastor, I'm leaning forward, folk, because you know what? These guys will destroy the Church of Christ. They destroyed it in the 1900s. They became the Christian church. You know where the Christian church is now? Ask Caleb to show you his videos. He's doing a paper on the Christian church, goes in these Christian churches. The Christian churches are inundated with Baptist youth ministers. They don't apologize. I'm a Baptist. Up in the Christian church. The Pentecostals are gone completely. Baptists are now the Pentecostals. And the Christian church are Baptists. And the Church of Christ is turning into the Christian church so fast it'd make my head spin. Do you know how many brethren have put the mechanical instrument in this year? Brethren are putting mechanical instruments in everywhere. Folk, we got to do something. HD, have I done my part? I've done my part. I love you, brethren. You know how the boys got back into school? Right back there. Jerry Moffitt. When I told Caleb what Jerry said, somebody willing to stand up for us, and then he said, I wouldn't even stay down there if it was me. And they started feeling better. But he said, I'd try to be reasonable. After about an hour talk, he said, I'd try to be reasonable. And so when the guy said, y'all can come back, they said, well, we'll be reasonable. And they came back. Thank you, Brother Moffitt. It's tough. It's tough on us. It's tough on you. It's tough on the elders here. I already know what the elders are going through because I live in this brotherhood too. Now, here's the question this morning. Brethren, what was the gentleman's name that was doing the Muslim stuff? That was debating the Muslim guys? Brother Hicks. Brother Hicks. Brother Hicks told about the Muslims and how they're doing. Did you know, man, the Muslims are going like crazy. You know why? Because the Muslims expect something out of the individuals with whom they associate. I hope you realize this morning that the Church of Christ expects something out of its members too. Don't you want to be on the forefront? Don't you want to be amongst a group of individuals that's leaning forward and got a purpose? Man, when you're out there knocking doors and you're getting Bible studies and you see new converts come in and you start seeing the zeal of those new converts, and I encourage you, don't take new converts out of the assembly and teach them in some back room. Teach them the first principles amongst brethren, and when the brethren that are already Christians see those new converts taking in the information about drinking, dancing, prom, and stuff like that, when you teach them that and they say, man, my kids ain't going to prom next year, you know what that does? That leavens for the good. Other brethren who are doing that stuff hear these new converts say, I'm not doing that no more. And it's a shame when other brethren are doing it. And it influences the whole. We don't take the new converts out of the assembly. No, sir, no, ma'am. That's the leavening influence. And that's how God designed it. New converts will change the posture of the Lord's church.
Is going to be
you just put 10 new converts in this congregation, watch what happens.
Texas School of Preaching. What do they say? Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. These guys are falling right in line with the typical politics of preaching schools. Get accredited so that you can send credits over to the college and we all get in bed together. They need to talk to B.J. Clark about his own writing from the 1992. Look, call him on the phone. BJ, You are sharing the pulpit with 2 Pepperdine speakers and a Winterfest speaker. Director of the Memphis School of Preaching, Curtis Cates, was the director.
Folks, you are live with me on What Does the Bible Say? Sunday edition. It is 9 p.m. Central here in Virginia. We are broadcasting into North Carolina, into Rocky Mount, Wilson, Tarboro, places like Goldsboro, Nash. We're broadcasting into 5 different counties here in the local North Carolina area. We say North Carolina, we actually are broadcasting on 2 different television broadcast stations. These are over-the-air stations, which means anybody out there that has an antenna can pick up this signal tonight. And so if you're in the Rocky Mount area, and particularly if you are a member of the Church of Christ, it would be good for you to alert someone that you know somewhere. You might say, well, my antenna doesn't reach all the way over even into South Carolina. You don't have to do that. Just tell them, what does the Bible say? Tell them to get on What Does the Bible Say tonight, because we're going to be talking about some serious information. If you're a member of the Church of Christ anywhere, we're going to be talking about very serious information tonight, and I'm saying it's going to cut to the bone, all the way to the bone. And we're going to end up causing issues for people. We're going to possibly see family against family. Is that biblical? Well, you know, if you are a person who has one of our Bible programs, you know how easy this is for you to actually be a person who ends up being able to find anything you set your mind to if you just know just a little bit of it. Look at that. A man's foes. You know what I did? All I had to do was type in FOE and put an asterisk next. And the Bible program searches until it finds any form of FOE. And the asterisk means it's a wild card. It means if it's got a S after it, whatever, foes. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Matthew chapter 10, verse 36. What are we talking about tonight? Listen, folks. We have basically seen a hornet's nest be stirred up, and it is associated with this entity. Now, folks, regardless of who you hear, regardless of what the website says, when you get on Texas School of Preaching, you can mark it down. This individual is the face of the Texas School of Preaching. This is the front. When you get on, this is what you see first. This is Jason Rollo. He has his back to you right here, but he is the face of the Texas School of Preaching. Why are we talking about that? Because Caleb was actually talking about the Texas School of Preaching right in front of the Freed-Hardeman lectures, where something that is monumental was taking place. Listen, y'all, Freed-Hardeman has been an institution that is in no way are they not used to having controversy. Can I put it that way? From way back in the beginning, when it was Georgia Robertson's School for Women, they had controversy. Freed was an individual who was involved with the melodeon, a mechanical instrument of music. And this school began in a fuss. And here they are today, and they're turning right into what they were fighting about back then. What is that? They're turning into a school that basically, we're talking about Freed-Hardeman here. We're not talking about Texas School of Preaching right now. Freed-Hardeman is turning into basically a school that will end up promoting denominationalism, sectarianism. Now, right now, y'all, they're not a school that is affiliated with the Church of Christ. There is no such thing. They like to have people come in that are members of the Church of Christ and become students. but that does not make them affiliated with the Church of Christ. They are simply a school in Tennessee. They are receiving federal funds, Title IX. They are simply a school out there that likes to put out that they are individuals that would be friendly, that they would be kindly towards members of the Church of Christ, your offspring. That's what they're basically saying. But here's the thing. They are moving. They have been moving. I mean, they're gone. If you just want to mark it down, they are gone. They are in affiliation, if you really want to get down to it, with schools that are fully into sectarianism in order to get that freshman class coming in. And so, right in front of their lectureship, which was in February, you had these guys in Nesbitt, Mississippi, doing a lectureship called Standing in the Gap Lectures. And Caleb started talking about the individuals that were on the platform, the Texas School of Preaching. Jason Rollo. Jason Rollo is called the co-director. The director is a gentleman called Brother Brownlow-dindy. Terrence Brownlow-dindy. Now, why am I bringing this up and why am I making such a big deal out of who the face is? Well, because tonight we are actually going to end up showing you some things that I don't know if you would ever find this information out. Many of you on your own, because, for some reason, folks, people just, when it comes to biblical information, when it comes to who we associate with, what's going on in the congregation, then for some reason, individuals just do not pay as much attention as they do maybe to buying a lawnmower. I'm getting text from a gentleman in Michigan. He does not know that I'm on live right now, and so this individual has problems, and so I'm taking time out just for a second to tell him something. Now, let me keep you glued in here. I know I am kind of starting off on a rocky, maybe a little bit rocky, and the reason why is because the information it bothers me. When I say it bothers me, there is nothing enjoyable about pointing out faults in our brethren's lives. There is nothing enjoyable about it whatsoever. But if we don't straighten this thing out, and you're basically going to see this right away, if we don't straighten this thing out, then I really don't know what is going to end up taking place. Texas School of Preaching, absolutely worthless. Can you believe that I said that? I have friends all over Texas. I am from Texas. I have friends all over Texas. And I know as they hear me say this, they are cringing when I say this school is worthless. It absolutely has no spine. It absolutely has no backbone. And the reason I'm saying that is because of what we're going to actually see while Caleb was talking about Reed Hardeman and the things that were taking place. Now, here's what is actually on the website in the comments. The individual that was being seen on the front that Caleb was talking about, a person put a comment on our YouTube. I'm going to have to widen it for you to be able to see it. And I want to make sure that you get a look at it and see what is being said. Terrence Brownlow-dindy, 9 days ago. Mr. Robertson, can you keep my name out of your mouth? Now, wait a second. Wait just a second here. I hear, and I do remember this, you may remember it, I don't know. I remember it's not a skit, it was something that happened. Will Smith ended up having to tell someone else, and I don't really want to get in all the names of this, just Will Smith is going to do,
to keep his wife's name out of their mouth, out of his mouth. And you know, when I read this, I can hardly accept that this isn't a thought that is actually coming from the very same kind of mentality. Keep my name out of your mouth. Mr. Robertson, can you keep my name out of your mouth? Now, y'all, who we're talking to is Caleb. You've got this gentleman right here. He is the director of the Texas School of Preaching. And Caleb is making a valid point. The point is, while they are talking about individuals like Friedrich Nietzsche, John Dewey, Lenin, Kinsey, Marx, Wellhausen, while they're talking about those individuals, a crisis is taking place. And the crisis is that Freed Hardeman is actually introducing full-on Pepperdine speakers. Now, you might be watching tonight and you might be saying, you know, Johnny, you guys on, what does the Bible say? Y'all were a good while on Calvinism and a good while on apostolic, but man, y'all have been wearing it out with the Church of Christ. And here's the reason why. It's because these guys are not plugged in. So Mr. Denby, are you looking at Mr. Denby? Mr. Denby is, I believe he is 49 years old. Caleb is 29. Doesn't really matter when you really get down to it. But in a minute, you might say, well, it kind of matters a little bit once you change over and maybe we start discussing some of their family members. Because when I'm looking at this, I'm beginning to wonder if anybody's paying attention over in Texas. Mr. Robertson, says Mr. Brownlow-dindy, Dindy, would you keep my name out of your mouth? Listen, y'all. So, what do you think about that? A director of School of Preaching, he says, you don't know me. I was calling out Pepperdine, Cope, Walling, Shelley, and countless others like them from the pulpit before you could even spell liberalism. You claim to be well-read. You should know then that liberalism among churches of Christ did not spring forth from thin air. Decades ago, many subscribed to some of the devilish doctrines of some of the very people we addressed in Standing in the Gap lectures. Decades ago, many subscribed to some of the devilish doctrines of the people that we're addressing. Decades ago. Now, listen, y'all. We're in 2023. I didn't see any of these individuals helping when we were involved with the FHU Freed Hardeman nude art activity. What was that? It was the art program at a school that claims to be affiliated with the Churches of Christ, which they're really not. And they have an art program, and they were unashamed, unabashedly advertising all kinds of filth, nudity, bestiality, food fetish associated with nudity, just crazy stuff. And so, I don't remember you, Mr. Dindy. I don't remember you calling any of these people out. And I'm about as much older than you are, Caleb. And I'm fairly certain I know how to spell liberalism, and I really don't think that you were involved. If you were in Brown Trail in 2000, Brown Trail was right up in the middle of bringing all kinds of liberals in. And if you were in the Florida School of Preaching, it looked like you left there maybe in somewhere, maybe, I don't know, 2016 to 2000, whatever. Brian Kenyon was bringing in the very false teachers that I'm going to be talking about tonight. And I know no one over there was calling it out, because when I actually called it out in the lesson that is up on our YouTube, where I am actually at the Portland lectures and I'm speaking out against what's going on in the Brotherhood, Brian Kenyon was in the audience and told me he didn't know anything about J. Lockhart. So, all of this decades ago. Notice then he says, the same thing is happening in our generation, hence the relevance of a lectureship of this nature. I don't know anything relevant about it. If you weren't so busy trying to discredit and undermine good works and good brethren, speaking of the Texas School of Preaching, you would recognize this. Multiple members of the Texas School of Preaching staff have publicly marked multitudes of error and those who promote it as per Romans 16:17. We just aren't obnoxious about it. Maybe you should try conversing with some of us to see where we stand before making enemies of us without knowing a thing about us. Terrence Brownlow-dindy. Now, Brother Dindy, I was actually in Bryan College Station at the same time as this post was going up 9 days ago. And not only was I in Bryan College Station, but right below your post is another individual who was also on Standing in the Gap lectures. His name appears Omari French 9 days ago. Hello all. I spoke twice at the lectureship in Nesbitt, the one Mr. Dindy says is so relevant. I'm in no way supportive of anyone fellowshipping of Pepperdine in any capacity by any men as that constitutes sin. I have corresponded with Johnny Robertson recently, and I am thankful to God for him and his friendship over the years. He explained to me that he is working on deeper compilation and connections, and I pray for that effort. I'm unaware of some of the issues and welcome diligent inquisition, but I fully support the exposing of error and the fellowshipping of errant brethren. God bless. Now, let's get this straight. This man, 9 days ago, Omari French, actually called me after this post, somewhere in this time frame. I was in Bryan College Station. I was in the home of a friend there, a brother, who we are working together on evangelism. And this brother has had contact with Brother Dindy. And I don't know if Brother Dindy remembers being handed a tract by him at a gas station out on maybe Texas Highway 30. I'm not talking about I-30. I'm talking about Farm to Market. And Mr. Dindy, did you accept the information that was on the tract? Did you see our name on the tract? Were you friendly? It's been some time around May, maybe, of last year. Were you an encouragement to that man out there handing out tracts at 2 gas stations in a town called Iola? And here's the question. How do you know what kind of inquiry we have made, and how do you know what we know and what Caleb was basically raised up around the individuals that are in, many of the individuals that are in the Texas School of Preaching? And I, on the other hand, have basically known all of them, with maybe the exception of 2. Now, can I ask this question of my audience tonight? What is it that creates the atmosphere? What is it that creates the compunction, the compelling action that has one of the individuals that spoke twice and told me that he didn't even want to have anything to do with the speaking on there? He said these individuals had no value to him. He said, I wanted to get up and preach the gospel. Now, he is in the comments, and right above him is the director, so-called, of the Texas School of Preaching, giving Caleb down the road for having his name in his mouth. Now, let's move back. Let's have a little bit of background here, because, boy, we're talking about some serious stuff. All right. So, Texas School of Preaching, Jason Rollo. Y'all, tonight I'm having to work hard. And the reason why I say that is because individuals have a very hard time in the Church of Christ connecting dots. Now, video games, no problem. Ball games, chasing a ball, no problem. Connecting dots, that's a problem. Are you ready to connect some dots? And actually do a little addition when it comes to years. 2015. This is the Gulf Coast Lectures in 2015. You might be saying, Johnny, you went over this last week? I did a little. And the thing about it is there's information that I don't know that you got. And that is, for one thing, the website that I'm looking at right here is called Tulstar. It is run by Jason Rollo. I want you to notice the 2015 lectures. I want you to just stay with me here. We're going to look through the names, and I want you to tell me if you see my name. 2015. Lectures on the Holy Spirit. As we go down through here, we're looking at names. You basically end up seeing one Robertson, that would be Caleb. You end up seeing another Robertson, that would be Micah. And as you leave that, then you see Jerry Moffitt. Now, I'm supposed to be right here in between Micah and Jerry Moffitt. But why am I not on there? Because what I did is I decided to call out the individuals that we are saying and producing evidence are involved in changing our brotherhood. And that's just all there is to it. Individuals like Jay Lockhart, Wayne Jones, folk out in Colorado in Bear Valley School of Preaching, as we're going to show as we go along. These individuals, all the preaching schools basically, are making a turn. They're more interested in getting degrees, moving towards a master's degree, bachelor's degree and master's degree. Bear Valley School of Preaching out in Denver, Colorado. Get on their website. They'll tell you that they're not accredited. Their master's degree isn't worth anything as far as the state is concerned. They're not accredited. I think probably you would be able maybe to get government money if you were a veteran. If they keep their records together, whatever, you would maybe be able to get tuition fees from the government as a result of being a veteran. Other than that, nothing to it. Just guys basically giving you a piece of paper that you can tell people that you have a master's degree from Bear Valley. All of a sudden, members of the Church of Christ say, oh boy, our pastor, that's basically what you guys are. You're the pulpiteer and you're the folk in the congregation where you are, they can tell their Baptist neighbor, well, our preacher has a master's degree from Bear Valley. Bear Valley's got Institute behind their name now. And so does East Tennessee, got some kind of institute behind their name. Are you looking here? And you might be saying, okay, I get, Johnny, what you're saying here, and I don't really know exactly what all that means. Okay, 2015, I end up preaching a lesson on fellowship, and for some reason, my name is left out of the website. For 8 years, if you went to this website, you can see here that you can go to several different kinds of spots on this website, on Tulstar. And what is going on here is if you click on this, you can hear the lesson, audio. So I finally, after 8 years, I finally get a set my own self. And as I'm looking at it right here, where I told you that I should be, notice this on the nice little plastic set case that it all came in. It says Teachings of the Holy Spirit in Denominationalism by Johnny Robertson. Now, you might be saying, Johnny's just mad. Can you see that right there? He's just mad because his name didn't get on the website. Listen, I'm not mad about anything. I got a copy as a result of one of the elders just having just absolutely insisting that these people not be able to take over the lectureship at Portland and dictate who's going to be on it and who's not going to be on it. And so I ended up seeing the information, not to mention the fact that Caleb videoed it with his phone because we knew that it was very likely that they were going to try to bury it. Why? Because I was naming everybody in there, including the guy who is running this apparatus. So there's my name on the new set. For some reason, they're coming out of San Angelo now, as opposed to Mount Vernon, Texas. You can see the DVD right here in the set. My name is actually right there. Don't know how my lighting was when I took that picture. You can see Johnny right there, and it is actually on this set. It is on this DVD. If you order the DVD. Now, really, you should not have to order the DVD. You should be able to just go to the website and click on and be able to hear it, because I am sure you've heard about it, where that particular lesson is somewhere in the 900s right now as far as views are concerned, and people are talking about it everywhere, and they'll be talking about it more tonight. Now, what's the deal here? What's the point? You made this point last week, is what you might be saying. Okay, here's the point. The next year, and I was invited back, but I didn't come back for the position that I was asked to speak. Generally, I have the Sunday morning lesson, have had it every year for I don't know how long. And it's not that I just have to have the attention on Sunday morning. Listen, I'm busy in June. This lectureship starts in May. We're having 2-week tent meeting. It begins third Monday in June every year, 2 weeks long. We got people coming from everywhere. 2013, I actually said that I wasn't going to be on the lectureship anymore. And one of the elders basically kidding around with me, so you don't like us, you don't care about us anymore. And so my wife really enjoyed going down to Portland and being with our friends who have supported the work that we're doing in Virginia for a long time. So I went ahead and just said, yes, I'll stay on the lecture. Back on Sunday, but this particular 2016, I was moved, and that's fine. I don't have to be in the front, but I don't have to accept either. And so the lectureship was on fellowship. And here's what you need to notice. If you can see right here, this is Jason Rollo. With whom may we scripturally fellowship? By Jason Rollo. That is the question, y'all. That is the absolute question of the hour. With whom may we fellowship? Now, I want you to remember what Mr. Brother Denby said about Caleb and his name in his mouth as you listen to this audio. Take a listen. This is a portion of the actual lesson that Jason Rollo actually put out and called it, With Whom May We Fellowship. Take a listen.
Now, there is a difference, and I'll just say this and then I'll go on. There is error and there's fatal error. I'll give you an example. Revelation chapter 20 and 21, we could get at a good discussion, particularly on chapter 21. Is that speaking about the church, or is that speaking about heaven? Now, that's an opinion issue. I can tell you that. I know brethren say, that's heaven. Others say, no, it's not heaven, it's the church. And then maybe someone comes along and says, well, maybe it's the church with overtones of heaven. Does it matter? I mean, it does. They're both not right, unless it's the overtones and involves both. But you could also go to maybe Acts 2:38. And someone says, well, I believe it's the miraculous, which I happen to believe. Another brother says, well, I believe it's all that God would bring, including the miraculous, but it also involves salvation as well. I mean, those are distinctions, but do we need to divide the church over that? Certainly not. And so fellowship determined, I would say this, as I go into my third and final point, which we'll spend most of our time on, fellowship denied, I want to say this, brethren, Ephesians 4:32. Ephesians 4:31 and 30.
I really want you to hear this. Listen to what Jason Rollo says here, and he actually is answering his own director. Listen.
4:32. Ephesians 4:31 and 32 is just as much a part of the Bible as Acts 2:38. Ephesians 4:31 and 32. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Sometimes this is even harder, because I can tell you, brethren, when I come across false teachers like Lakato and Shelley and these guys, I'm like the little girl across the street. I sometimes want to rip their head off and dip it in mustard and eat it.
Now, what was that? I'm saying really. Jason Rollo, and I'm saying this to you. That was the only mention of any names in his entire lecture on With Whom May We Fellowship. There's not a preacher anywhere that cannot get away with mentioning Max Lucado as a false teacher and Rubel Shelley as a false teacher. In the Church of Christ, the most kicked around, least thought of, most maligned individuals are Max Lucado and Rubel Shelley. And it doesn't take a spine at all to mention them as persons that he said he would like to rip their heads off. And let's, I don't want to quote him in a bad way, so let me hear it again.
I sometimes want to rip their head off and dip it in mustard and eat it.
He's quoting something that a little kid said. One of his children said about somebody, and it was a small child. They weren't really, we're not talking about that at all. So, Jason Rollo, the man of the hour, buries my lesson on fellowship. I was supposed to be speaking on the Holy Spirit. I detoured because nobody tells me what to speak on. Anywhere, anytime. If I am in the pulpit, I'm speaking whatever I think God wants me to say, and that's it. And that's why I'm here in front of you tonight. Nobody is telling us what to do. Nobody can stop the flow of money that is coming into us as long as we're doing God's will. And if the flow of money does stop, then we'll try to do it another way. That's just how it is. And so I changed. I basically answered what was going on, and I was blessed for it. The elders were pleased. Nobody said anything to me. I got high marks from the eldership, and they thanked me. And then they started cleaning up their fellowship. And so I didn't come back the next year. The preacher that was there didn't appreciate what was said. All of his friends got mad because all of them are involved in all this kind of stuff with J. Lockhart and several other individuals like Bear Valley and Memphis School of Preaching and on and on and on we can go. So what ended up happening? Jason Rollo ends up having the option to speak on fellowship, and he didn't cover it in any kind of way. It was awful, ridiculous for a man to spend that much time and never tell anybody in that audience anything about what was going on. And look at this. I particularly was pressing on Focal Point, which is in San Marcos, and was actually drafting off of the Gulf Coast Lectures. The Gulf Coast Lectures would end on Sunday, and Focal Point would then end up getting traffic that was headed back into, filtering back into other parts of Texas, and they would try to come in, and they had a bunch of liberals up in there. What is a liberal? It's an individual who is not willing to continue in authorized behavior. They're willing to share the pulpit with individuals that actually are not opposed to mechanical music, that are not opposed to women preachers, that are not really opposed to anything. They don't say anything about it when they hear about it, or they try their very best not to know about it. Did I check it out? Yes. Went there in 2014 in person, talked to J. Lockhart in person. So don't start this stuff that Mr. Dinby, Brother Dindy is talking about, that we're obnoxious and didn't try. Here's obnoxious. The director of the School of Preaching was there at Focal Point in 2014, and I asked him, would you just give me a second? I have all of this information. I have the lectureship brochures. I can show you where individuals who are for mechanical music are actually on with J. Lockhart. And he said, I wouldn't take anything from you. And he went right on his way. Was I recording? Yes. Now, here's what happened next. So, Jason Rollo has fellowship at Portland 2016, and you heard it. He would like to rip Shelley's head off and Max Lucado's head off, dip it in mustard, and eat it. But he didn't mention a single thing that is applicable. Nobody. And then what? Well, in 2016, he then himself is on the very lectureship that we're talking about. Here's Focal Point. Now, you look at your dates. Right here's the date. May 2016. Jason Rollo is the man of the hour. Fellowship. May 2016. May 2016. They basically go right down here to Focal Point. Let me make it larger for you. You see that? Focal Point is in San Marcos. Wayne Jones. Are you looking? Now, folks, look at the people that are on here. most of you, you're not going to know anybody, because in our brotherhood, it isn't in vogue to know anybody. Melvin Odie. You're going to see Melvin Odie with individuals that are involved with Pepperdine. You keep moving down, Melvin Odie. Look at right here, this is moving ahead, individuals that are involved with people that spoke on Pepperdine. Rick Brumback, he was actually doing that this year while these guys were doing this lectureship called Standing in the Gap. And that's why Caleb was saying, y'all need to be saying something to B.J. Clark, because he's headed off down there. He's going to be with Rick Brumback, Eric Owens, Jeff Jenkins. See how this is going? Now, I couldn't get it all in one slide, so here's some more of it. I basically picked up, the last person on there was Jeff Jenkins. I picked up right there, close to Jeff Jenkins. We're going to continue to look at it, the individuals that were on this lectureship. Dan Winkler, also individual who goes to the watering trough, affirming the faith, where you can be with Oklahoma Christian individuals who have no problem whatsoever with Pepperdine. You keep moving down, Eric Owens, as we said, Wade Webster. Here's Jason Rollo. Now, Jason, what is wrong with you? I'm just saying, what is wrong with you? Because something is wrong with you. How in the world can you actually get on a lectureship that has been stirred? The pot was boiling in 2015. The elders had put out a list of schools that they were not going to be involved with, one of which was Bear Valley for sure. And Jason Rollo comes in, and you have to ask yourself, what is wrong with a guy that ends up, now at this point, you're going to have to basically do a little memory work, because I am going to put in front of you these individuals that I just got through talking about. Now, here is affirming the faith. I'm basically wanting you to be able to see lectureships where these individuals that I'm talking about are actually all lined up. Now, this is not that hard. Now, I will say this, rank and file. Maybe there's a guy named Brandon that's watching. Brandon, this is what you do. If you want to know where someone is, say for instance, you're watching, and Brandon's a friend of ours. I mean, he's a person who is invested in this. And we're basically saying, if you want to figure out how to do this, all what you do is you just simply find the name of a few lectureships. And you basically put in affirming the faith. You put in the name of the person, affirming the faith lectureship. You put the name of the person, like Melvin Odie. Here it is, Melvinotey. Melvin Odie. You put in preacher, Church of Christ. I'm not calling him a Church of Christ preacher. I'm telling you how to do a search. I'm telling all y'all how to do a search. And once you do that, here's what happens. North MacArthur, Church of Christ, Affirming the Faith Seminar 2016. Why is it so important to have 2016 in it? Well, 2016, y'all, is when all of this business was going on that we're talking about. What were we talking about? What business? Look at this. Here's the Tulstar website. This one is live. It's hot, as they say. Jerry Moffitt, I'm supposed to be right here. I'm not. You move to the next one, 2016 Christian Fellowship. Jason Rollo, he's hot. All I have to do is click it and he starts talking. Here's the 2016 Focal Point. And you have all of these names. Let's go through them right quick. It's hot. You can see the entire lectureship. You can listen to what they talk about. Neil Pollard over at Bear Valley, involved with Bear Valley. Dan Winkler. Eric Owens. Eric Owens, the year before, was on Faulkner lectureship with 3 or 4 individuals from Pepperdine. Elflegard Smith, Walt Lever, Jerry Rushford. And people are saying, I don't know who these people are. You have to know who these people are. Do you want Dan Winkler bringing his friends in, and his friends are actually going to teach your young people, your children, that it's okay to go to Pepperdine and to go to Oklahoma Christian lectures and hear the people that they line up. That's exactly what's happening right in front of you. And so basically, what I'm doing is I'm showing you all these individuals on a workshop called Focal Point that Jason Rollo is in. He's on right after he does a lesson on fellowship where he names nobody. He should have named Dan Winkler. He should have named David Jones. He should have named Eric Owens. Why? Eric Owens and Dan Winkler and several of these other individuals like Melvin Odie, Neil Pollard, these folk are messing around with individuals that mess around are, in fact, with Pepperdine. Now, how do we establish that? Here we go. Now look, I can't do all of this for you. I'm simply saying somebody has got to start paying attention, because this has gotten really to the point of being totally, absolutely ridiculous. Now, here's the thing. I don't think I'm being obnoxious at all in this. Let's get Brother Dindy back up. I don't think I'm being obnoxious. I think him telling Caleb that he was calling these people out before Caleb could even spell liberalism needs to be proved. Because I know the schools that he was involved with were not and have not been. All of these individuals are using the same circuit, and they're not calling these people out. Now, here's how about, you know what? I do not mind being wrong. If Brother Dinby wants to send me information, and talking about us having to talk to him, I've been basically trying to get a set of the 2015 Gulf Coast lectures for 8 years. You might say, well, you already said you had the one that the elders gave you. So I don't want to have it that way. I want you to do the right thing and put it back in where it goes, in the lectureship of 2015. For 8 years, I have on my phone where I corresponded with Jason Rollo, nothing. I have on my phone where I corresponded with Jason Rollo 9 days ago, nothing. I am basically looking at Mr. Denby's his email address here on Facebook, and also his email that he used to go into our What Does the Bible Say video where Caleb was talking about their Standing in the Gap lectures. If I'm wrong and somebody's using his name, I just have to make that correction. But when I tried to put it in to compose a Gmail to him, it was ready to go. I didn't send it to him. I think other people are going to do that. But I will tell you this, I am not mistaken about Omari French, who is a friend of theirs, all of theirs, and is on their programs with them. He said he did not want to have anything to do with that. Individuals like B.J. Clark that are involved with Pepperdine. So what do you do about your friend Omari French? Is he obnoxious? Can he not have your name in his mouth? Is that the posture you're going to take towards him? You know, it just really, all of it, when you really get down to it. Here's the thing. Here's why I know that Terrence is not really of the stripe that he's letting on, because this is where this guy comes from. His master's degree, so-called, came from Bear Valley Institute in 2016. This is their website. They're actually celebrating all, across the board individuals that were getting their master's degree. Now, I just want to put this up. And, I really don't know what's up with this, because I was under the impression that by 2017, here's the date right here, 2017, that Jay Lockhart was totally out of Bear Valley. So I don't know if Bear Valley needs to clean up their website or if they're still sneaking around with Jay Lockhart or not. But I know that Stafford North is no longer on their Master's Blitz, which is a 2-week apparatus. But here's Terrence Brownlow-dindy himself, his bio, and it basically tells us what we need to know about him. And you can see right here that he got his Master's of Biblical Studies from Bear Valley Institute in 2016. Can I tell you something? In 2015 and 16, the director, Denny Petrello, was still crying about the death in 2015 of Tulsa Soul Winning Workshop. Dude, you got your master's degree from one of the most liberal preaching schools in the entire brotherhood. Nobody, I don't know of a director of any preaching school, and let me just think about that. Is there a liberal enough in the entire brotherhood in a preaching school that would basically say that we need the Tulsa workshop back, besides Denny Petrello? I don't think so. That's as far out as you can get. This guy is not calling out anybody. He called our name out. The reason we know about his statement about Tulsa workshop is he sent a letter to a friend of ours in Bangkok, and we ended up intercepting it, not to mention the fact that the students over there are talking to us. Some of them have asked for their tuition back. Jay Lockhart is, I don't think Jay Lockhart is still on there. I know that Stafford North exited, and he exited because basically the pressure that was being put on them as a result of things that we were saying. So 3 men completed their studies in master's degree program. Terrence Brownlow-dindy. Now, can I just tell you, Terrence, you're a liberal. That's just all there is to it. If you can stomach Bear Valley, you are an individual who is a change agent. You're involved in the move to actually allow individuals that associate with Oklahoma Christian, that associate with Pepperdine, that associate with David Lipscomb. Listen, y'all, why don't you just get on the Pepperdine and the Harding lecture? Just get on their website and start going through the names. You'll end up seeing individuals that are in and out of Pepperdine. David Shannon himself, I'm talking to people who finally, y'all ought to know this by now. David Shannon, the director, the president of Freed Hardeman, he brought these guys in, and he actually invited people. Let's all go down to Winterfest with Jeff Walling. Jeff Walling is the youth man at Pepperdine. And so, Terrence, Caleb can basically say whatever he wants to about you whenever he wants to. And what you need to do is you need to take advice from your friend, Omari French, and you need to repent. And Jason Rollo, y'all, listen, I hate to be this way, but I think you guys are preoccupied. Preoccupied with what? What a huge majority, and I really don't know how to classify individuals when we start coming to sports. I didn't do sports. Someone might say, well, you're a skinny little dude, and you probably couldn't do sports. Listen, y'all, I was raised on a farm. Excuse me. I was involved with horses, cattle. Rodeo was my thing. I don't do ball. I just, and then when I got good sense, like 17, 18-year-old, I'm not involved in rodeo anymore either. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with rodeo. I'm just saying sports ends up occupying a huge portion of the brains of individuals in the Church of Christ. You get to a lectureship, and if you want to tell somebody about what's going on amongst the brotherhood, pretty much whatever sport is going on, they're going to be talking about it. They're going to have their jerseys on, things of that nature. And Terrence, he's not any different. This is his son, Gabriel. I don't know if this is his Twitter, I guess it is. And let's just say this. Now, let's don't get all huffy and say, now, that's my son you're talking to. Listen, you can say anything you want to Caleb. You can talk about my wife. That's just your prerogative. That doesn't mean to me that really anything is happening. That's just the way some individuals are. It's good for you to do it, but for us, it's not. And I'm not talking about your son. I'm just saying, look at what's going on. And I'm telling you, Jason Rollo, big time Aggies fan. Now, look at this. Great to have the OU coaches stop by, even when we're all going through crazy times. I don't know exactly what they were talking about right there. I do know the end of it. And the end of it ends up being that he left the Sooners, and he ended up what I believe is called shocking the entire sports world. Let me let you see it for yourself. Gabriel Brownlow-dindy, 5-star defensive lineman, shocked the college football world on Monday as he flipped his commitment from Oklahoma to Texas A&M. The flip vaulted the Aggies to the nation's #1 class, according to On3. consensus team recruiting ranking. How about that? Now, that's what's going on in their life, and it was, I think this was 2021, sometime around in there. Notice what Terrence's son attributed. And I'm not saying anything that this is good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just telling you, A&M flips 5-star defensive lineman. On December 6th, this is December 6th, 2021, notice down here what he ends up saying. He said that basically the five-star said this decision was very important to his family. His father, Terrence Brownlow-dindy, accepted a job as the director of the Texas School of Preaching, and his family will be moving to College Station. With Brownlow-dindy's commitment, A&M has moved to number 2 recruiting class in the nation with 21 commitments. Yahoo! See what I'm saying? I tell you one thing, I can say this without contradiction. The Dindys are definitely up into football, and so is Jason Rollo. And neither one of them have a clue as to what's going on in our brotherhood as far as who is teaching what, and they need to wake up. Here's my proof to you. Mr. Dindy, while you were calling out the false teachers, why didn't you call this one out? B.J. Clark. Now, what we have here is we have very hard to get information. B.J. Clark, director of the Memphis School of Preaching. Where is he? 2014, Bear Valley Lectures. What's he doing there? Well, how about we just take a listen and see what he's doing there? Take a listen.
Well, first of all, let me say congratulations on your anniversary. It's a wonderful moment. I know you're excited. It must be exciting for you to see folks you haven't.
I happen to know that BJ said he didn't even know who was on this lectureship. He got off the plane, did his lecture, got on the plane, had no idea false teachers were on this lecture. So let's back up just a little bit and listen to what he's saying about what goes on at a lectureship.
It must be exciting for you to see folks you haven't seen in a long time. Glad this school has been in existence since 1965. That makes it a year older than the school where I work. And we appreciate all the good that you've done over so many years. And as you've heard it said so many times that lighthouses aren't in competition, and I know that's the way good schools of preaching feel.
What kind of lingo is that? Lighthouses are not in competition with each other, and that's the way we feel about schools of preaching. Listen, this school of preaching has been liberal for as long as I have been preaching in the 80s. I lived in Texas. A lot of people had started sending their students over that way, and everybody in the Texas area having a fit. Why are you sending people over there to Bear Valley? Why? That's basically as bad as sending them to Whites Ferry Road where the Robertsons are now, the Duck Dynasty people. These people have been off forever. You might say, well, Johnny, man, that's B.J. Clark. Yeah, B.J. Clark, who don't even know where he is. These people getting to see people that they hadn't seen in a while. He didn't see anybody he knew. He got off the plane, and Robert Stapleton said the exact same thing, and I have it on tape when I was asking him, man, Bob, why don't you stop some of these liberals that are coming into Brown Trail? He said, Johnny, I come up from downstairs. I come up and do my lecture, and I go back downstairs. I'm directing the School of Preaching. I don't even know who's on the lectureship. And I said, is that what you teach your students? To not know who's on the lectureship with you? That's a dead giveaway that you're not paying attention to fellowship. Do you recognize this guy? This is Stafford North, y'all. Stafford North has been at OCU forever, and he's basically speaking on the lectureship as well. Listen to a little bit of him.
From Ephesians 2 and verse 13.
I want to thank the brethren here and for cooperating churches for having such a fine event as this. I think it's great that they are providing that opportunity for us and the good things that can come from it. And I want to thank you for making the effort to come. Some of you have come from long distances and spent a lot of money to be here. And so thank you for coming and being a part of this event. And I want to thank the brethren for inviting some old men to speak, like and Rollo, who will speak Sunday night. I'll have to tell you a little story about my age. I attend the Memorial Road Church of Christ in Oklahoma City.
Super liberal. Who's there? Phil Brookman. Phil Brookman is the youth minister that he ends up telling about that they promoted him to preacher. Goes to Pepperdine. Harold Shank, he's one of the elders now, goes to Pepperdine. This man's dead. Stafford North has now passed, maybe a year or two. And Memorial Road, super liberal congregation, unbelievable. Phil Sanders over at Edmond Road, they back and forth with Memorial Road. I know people in Memorial Road, and they actually say that they are just like this with Edmond. These folk are all playing you, playing all of us. And for some reason, Jason Rollo can't figure out that he should have talked about some of that in 2016 instead of getting on the lectureship with people that are all over that particular lectureship. And you might say, okay, I need some help here. Okay, that was 2014. Here is Oklahoma Christian Lectures information for 2012. Let's look at a little bit of it. 62nd OCU lectureship, Dr. Harold Shank, president of Ohio Valley University, Pepperdine speaker. A cappella, look at this, outdoor concert by a cappella. Unbelievable that we're even talking about this. As we scroll down, President John D. Steiger will speak on Monday. Pepperdine, he's the president of Oklahoma Christian, speaks at Pepperdine. Memorial Road, Sally Shank, she will actually talk as well to the women. Dr. J. Lockhart will bring 5 lessons for preachers, preaching from Ephesians. The lectureship also includes a dinner for preacher and elders and their wives. Dr. Milton Sewell, he wouldn't bring any of these people into Friedharden, but he himself will go over there. He's going to also speak. A special event this year, lecture will follow Sunday evening lectures when the group a cappella will perform in Hardeman Auditorium. This will be the 30th reunion concert. Concert members will be singing, but they will be joined by former members Steve Lancaster, Rodney Britt, Dwayne Adams, Robert Guy, Steve Maxwell. Who is Steve Maxwell? Y'all, Steve Maxwell is actually the music director where Don McLaughlin preaches in North Atlanta, Georgia. Mechanical instrument music already in. This is Amy, his daughter. She is a woman preacher. On the Pepperdine lectures, this is all Pepperdine right here. That didn't bother. That doesn't bother Oklahoma Christian. This is something that goes on all the time. Now, let me ask for the footage from Terrence Dindy. Now, I know I can get some footage from Omari French because we have it on our own YouTube. You know, it gets old being us. You know what I'm saying? Caleb's 29 years old, already has a debilitating disease, I guess is how he would actually want it to be categorized. He has ulcerative colitis. What do you think causes ulcerative colitis? Well, a lot of it has to do with nerves. The fact that you're always going up against these individuals. And, you know, I know that individuals, when you tell them that they're involved with people that they cannot fellowship, they will tell you, you're not getting any more money. That's just all there is to it. And so it gets hard being us. And so can I just basically say a huge shout out to Omari French, who was on the same lectureship as Mr. Mr. Dindy, Brother Dindy. And Brother Dindy, do you mind is this the Christian attitude from Omari? Is it okay for him to say that he supports us? Did he actually give us a percentage May I look? I'm in no way supportive of anyone supporting fellowshipping Pepperdine in any capacity by any man, as that constitutes sin. I've corresponded with Johnny Robertson recently, and I'm thankful for him and his friendship over the years. Now, is that okay for him to say that? Texas School of Preaching, running with all the rest of them. They're basically taking our brotherhood right off into sectarianism. They're not saying anything about anybody that comes in who's doing it. I don't know if other people are doing it. I don't know everybody that does everything, but I do know this. You're getting it on What Does the Bible Say? And you should tell a friend about the broadcast tonight. It will be named Grave Error, having to do with the Texas School of Preaching. I'll tell you one thing. I don't even know what it is. What is it that you say to an Aggie? Dig 'em, gig 'em. Y'all go Aggies. Why don't y'all get your Bible out and get into fellowship and start finding out some of the people that are turning our brotherhood into a sectarian group. You know, what does the Bible say? Always ask for it. Demand preachers that will tell you what is going on. God bless you. Good night.